It is Nityavari. Please here be attentive. Nityavari means it is eternally our enemy. The eternal enemy. Eternal enemy means that since many, many births, it has remained our enemy. And it has captured and conquered us. So Krishna will give the eternal education in this chapter. So how to overcome lust? Lust, what it does? It covers the knowledge. So what to do? Invoke knowledge. If we invoke knowledge, if we are situated in knowledge, then we can conquer lust. But how to receive that knowledge? Can anyone and everyone receive that knowledge? What is the criteria? What is the qualification of receiving this transcendental knowledge? So Krishna will give detail in this. So let us begin with invocation, Mangalacharan, and then we will discuss as Krishna will enlighten us in this chapter. Very important chapter, transcendental knowledge. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sahavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Shunnavadi Paschanta Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. So this chapter is transcendental knowledge. This knowledge also is eternal. The lust is the eternal enemy of the living entity. But to be able to overcome lust, Krishna has already given this transcendental knowledge. So who can receive transcendental knowledge? Let us have a little recap from the third chapter. In third chapter, Krishna has glorified transcendental knowledge. So what is Krishna recommending? How one can receive transcendental knowledge? The third chapter Krishna spoke. Some contributions from your side. How many of you attended the third chapter? You attended? You also to some extent. One or two classes you were not there, but mainly you. If you're not able to come, you can join online.
I was in Germany. I was in training.
Actually, you were in training. Yes. So what is the criteria? Who can receive transcendental knowledge? What Krishna spoke in the third chapter? That is true. But how to be Krishna consciousness and how to be situated in Krishna consciousness? Yes. Yes, it is called Nishkam Karma. By performing Nishkam Karma. Being free from attachment to result. So the two emphasis in the third chapter was mainly on how to be detached and also how to be focused on performing one's prescribed duties. So now in the fourth chapter, Krishna will speak about this knowledge which Krishna is imparting to Arjuna, and through Arjuna is not that Krishna is making some experiment. He has made something, he has innovated or invented something new. It is already since time immemorial. And it has been received by the greatest authorities. Those who have been the administrators, those who have been the rulers of the human race. So this is the first verse in the fourth chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So Krishna continues. So Krishna is continuing to explain this knowledge, and he says, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manurikshava kave pravid. So Krishna says that this gyan, this knowledge, that Arjuna, which I am revealing to you, so far Krishna has revealed this knowledge of performing one's prescribed duties. He says this was given since the beginning of the mankind, since the beginning of the human race. Imam vivasvate yogam. And who is Vivasvan? Is the sun god. You know, you all study science also. So there are planetary systems, isn't it? Our Earth is also one planet. And there are other planets. And how all the planets rotate in their axis? They rotate around the sun. So the sun is the chief. So amongst all the planets, the king of all the planets is the sun planet. Because without sun, it cannot infuse life. So Krishna is saying, I first gave this knowledge, Arjuna, this knowledge which I am giving to you, Vivasvate Yogam, to Vivaswan. Vivaswan, who is the sun god. And what is this knowledge? What is this transcendental knowledge? He says this is the science of one's relationship with the Supreme. So now Krishna is extending further. So far, he had given knowledge about the soul. But now Krishna will reveal the knowledge of himself. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And also very importantly, he will discuss or he will define our relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is the Sambandha. Sambandha, our relationship. So yoga means, we all know, is to connect, is to link. Yoga does not mean physical drill. Physical drill समझते हैं ना? हाँ, आसन नहीं है खाली, व्यायाम नहीं है, जैसा कि लोग सोचते हैं. हाँ, क्योंकि anyway, the body cannot be endured. So second chapter में कृष्णा ने बहुत डिटेल दे दिया. The body is taking birth and it is bound to die. जातस ही ध्रुवोर मृत्यु ध्रुवर जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मात् अपरिहार्यार्थे. So you should not be lamenting for that. But what is more important is this connection, this yogam. So this science or this knowledge can only be received by those who are situated in this yogam. And right now, what is the situation? We are in viyogam. We are separated. There is no yoga. So what is the practice of Krishna consciousness? Is to revive. Prabhupada always says, what is Krishna consciousness? Is to revive our lost relationship with the Supreme God. So this science of knowledge is nothing but the science of relationship. Only those who are in relationship can actually receive this knowledge. And he says, Prokta Vahan Aham Avyayam. what I am instructing to you or what I am speaking to you, this is avyayam. Vyaya means, you have some money, and if you spend it, what happens? It is finished. It is over. Supposingly, you have 1 lakh of rupees in your bank account. But if you write a check of 1 lakh rupee and withdraw, what is the result? It's gone. Finish. But this knowledge, Krishna says, that I am speaking to you, proktavan aham. What I am speaking to you is avyayam. Avyayam means it is never over. It is always there. So, that's very interesting. Please note it very carefully because we will discuss the second verse also. Krishna says it is avyayam. Avyayam means it cannot be exhausted. It cannot be lost. It is avyayam. And how it is avyayam? Because after it was received by Vivaswan, it was passed on to Vivaswan Manve Prahu. The sun god gave it to the sun god gave it to his sons. Who? Manu. Manu is the father of all mankind. And Manur Ikshavakyave Avravit. So it has been passed. It has been transferred. How? From one personality to the other personality. As with the passage of time, it has been transferred. It has not remained still. Or it has not been over that it has been given to only one. But it has been passed on. Generation after generation, centuries after centuries, yugas after yugas. So it is avyayam. It is inexhaustible. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan. And Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Very interesting. Now, in the last verse, Krishna was discussing about how to conquer lust and how all of a sudden this sun god and Manu and Ikshvaku have all come. Because Krishna is revealing the knowledge which I am giving you, Arjuna, is nothing new. It's not that I am innovating or experimenting with you. Such great personalities, such great authorities, they have been benefited by this knowledge. And the same knowledge I am imparting to you for your ultimate welfare. Supposingly, we come to know that the medicine that we are taking is the same medicine which the Prime Minister is taking, is the same medicine which the Chief Minister is taking, is the same medicine which has been given to the director of your institute. So how much will be your inclination to accept it? How much will be your inclination to accept it? Bolo? Hoga nahi hoga? Kitna hoga? Kitna? 100%. 100%. 100%. So that is why Krishna is giving this connection, this linkage. So it's a big purport. We'll gradually go by the purport. There are many important aspects that Prabhupada is highlighting in the purport. Herein we find the history of Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets. So this knowledge is not something which is available to everyone. Although it is available in the form of book, it is available to everyone, but still not everyone can have it. So we see the history of Bhagavad Gita, how it is coming down. It is coming down from the royal order. The greatest authority in the entire universe. First is Brahmaji. He received it. And Krishna again is mentioning about the sun planet, the sun god, Vivaswan. He received it. So they were very important, not only just important, but very powerful personalities, very advanced persons who could receive this knowledge. The king of all planets are specially meant for the protection of the inhabitants. And therefore, the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. So this is the purpose what Krishna is speaking. That why he gives this knowledge, transcendental knowledge, is to protect the people in general from the influence of lust. And it cannot be directly done. It is been done through the royal order. The kings, the monarchs, the administrators, the chief of the rulers, they accepted it. They realized it. They applied it in their life, and they systematically propagated it in such a way that their citizens, they could receive it and they could be saved from the bondage of lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. So that is why Krishna spoke in the 3rd chapter. He spoke a very, very important verse. Speaking about that, who should be inclined to receive this knowledge? We should have role models. What was the verse Krishna spoke? Yes, yad acharati sreshta tat tat eva tarojana sa yad pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. So those who are leaders, those who are in this leadership position, who are going to rule the kingly class, the administrators. So that is why Krishna selected Arjuna. He did not select any Brahmana. Did he select? No. He selected Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna was the representative. He was the kingly class. So it is very important that to understand that it is not very cheap or it is not very easy access to be able to receive Bhagavad Gita. So what we have to do, we have to have such qualified persons who are leaders. So leader means he should be trained in the science of yoga. Because if he does not have this yoga, then how can he pass it on? He should have this relationship. His eternal relationship should be established. So there are 3 things. We'll try to discuss on these 3 things. One is our eternal enemy, that is in the form of lust. Second is our eternal relationship, that is with the Supreme Lord. Jiva's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord is never lost. It is only covered. Like Krishna gave an example of covering on the mirror. It is the covering of the consciousness. So how to revive our relationship to be able to overcome the lust is through this eternal education which Krishna is imparting. So this knowledge which Krishna is imparting is not new. It is eternal. Since the beginning of the human race, this knowledge was available. Krishna spoke it to Vivaswan, the sun god, and from sun god it has been passed on. So human life, Prabhupada says, is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Human life is not meant for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That is also an activity in the human form of life, but that is not the activity. These actions or activities are being engaged by lower species. So what is the privilege of human form of life? Is spiritual cultivation. And what is that spiritual cultivation? Cultivation of this knowledge. And what is this knowledge? The knowledge is one's relation with the Supreme Lord. If that relationship is established, then one's perfection is achieved. In eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the executive head of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens. So Prabhupada is giving a very revolutionary statement. This is Sri Prabhupada's compassion. Prabhupada is saying that the executive heads, those who are in the prime position, those who are holding position of authority of all states, it may be any country, any city, any society, and all planets are obliged It is not that it is, that they are having an liberty or privilege whether to impart or not. It is their duty. They are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens. How? By education. First, Prabhupada says is education, then he says culture and devotion. So it is the duty of any leader and every leader at every stage of life. What is his duty? Is to impart this eternal education, to train his subordinates in yoga, and re-establishing his lost relationship with the Supreme Lord. And how? By education. What do we gain by education? Why you are all studying? What do we gain by education? Knowledge. Knowledge. But knowledge is not alone sufficient. Along with knowledge, what we require? Culture. Culture is required. That is why Prabhupada created the Society of Krishna Consciousness. International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Because unless and until that culture is there, like you come to this Sattvic mess, so what do you get? You get prasad. You get association of devotees. You get the opportunity to chant, to hear, to study Bhagavad Gita. If you go to any other hostel, if you go to any other mess, do you get that? Don't get. So what is required? The leaders, not only simply education is required. Why we created this Sattvic mess? Because without having Sattvic mess, it cannot be practiced. It needs a environment, it needs a culture. So that culture has been created. Because with culture, what we have is experience. Without the culture, we cannot have experience. What kind of knowledge it will be? It will be only a theoretical knowledge, without any experience. And Prabhupada mentions the third important word is devotion. So by knowledge, by education we have knowledge, by culture we have experience, and by devotion what do we have? Devotion, you understand? What is devotion? Yes, speak. Very good. Love towards Krishna. Very good. Cultivation of loving feelings. And how do we develop devotion? By practice, by offering, by service. Most important is service, through service. So when we engage in devotion or in service, then what we have? We have realizations. We have realizations. Why people are not able to advance in Krishna consciousness? Because they lack realizations. They don't have realizations. So it is the duty. It is the duty of our leader to be able to create the environment where he can impart the education. There is the practice of Krishna consciousness, that culture is there, and everyone is engaged as per his psychophysical nature to be able to render some service with love and devotion, so that he can have realizations. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path. That is why Prabhupada was always calling upon the leaders. Prabhupada used to say that I am an old man, but I need qualified men. And Prabhupada always trained leaders. He trained the hippies, the Americans and the Europeans who became leaders and who spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So that what is the prime purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness? Now after studying this purport, now have we come to know what is the prime purpose? Why it is so essential, why it is compulsory to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? What will be the defect if we do not do that? That is true. That is true. That is the spiritual advantage. But what is the disadvantage if we don't spread? What will happen?
The knowledge is based on
Huh? No, no, Krishna has already made this knowledge avyayam. People can be bound, the bondage of lust can never be released. That's what Prabhupada is speaking. It is for the release from the bondage of lust. So everyone will be born in the mode of passion and ignorance, and they will die. They will die within this bondage of lust. They cannot be liberated. The liberation of the human race will not be possible if this knowledge is not passed on or spread. So that is why it is the duty. That is why Mahaprabhu said, मनुष्य भारत भूमि ते होइले मनुष्य जन्म जार जन्म सार्थक करी कर परोपकार. What is the parupkar? Is to protect the people from the bondage of lust. Leader means he is protecting others from the bondage of lust. Can you show me one leader? One political leader who can do that? Who are they leaders? They are not leaders. So here Prabhupada is saying that it is the duty of all executives head, of all states and all planets. They are a bottom line. So this is mandatory. That is what is happening. The greatest enemy that the human race is facing is not outside, is inside, in the form of lust. And as this Kali Yuga will advance, or it will, grow in years, this bondage of lust will not be less, it will be more. And everyone is in a position to suffer more. So there is no option for us than to become the recipient of this knowledge. Because only through this knowledge, we will be able to overcome the lust. That is what Krishna said. In the last verse, Krishna said, in the 43rd verse, he said that, Evam buddhe param buddha, samstabhyam atmanam atmanam. By spiritual intelligence. One should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So spiritual intelligence is coming in the form of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So if one does not receive this knowledge, then he cannot be released from the bondage of lust. And then Prabhupada is giving the history that this knowledge which I am speaking to you is coming since time immemorial. That is why it is eternal education. Nothing new. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivaswan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In Brahma Samhita 5.52, it is stated, Yachakshurev Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samast Suramurti Rashesha Teja Yasyagyaye Brahmiti Samrata Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yat Chakshurev Savita Sakala Grahanam. That the entire planetary system is rotating. Let me worship Lord Brahma, said the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eyes of the Lord. Chakshu means eyes. So the sun represents the eye of the Supreme Lord. And it traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna speaks in the 3rd canto. He says that everything which you see in the nature, it is in perfect harmony, is it? I just saw in the news that yesterday or day before yesterday, in India, one big railway accident happened. Many people, hundreds of people died. Why? Because on the track on which this train was moving, this passenger train, there was already a goods train which was parked. But so many planets, the Supreme Lord is rotating in the orbit. Have you ever heard two planets have collided? Ever? Never. So many stars are there. Have you seen? Have you ever seen two stars, striking? Nothing. Why? Everything man-made means there is always error. And anything which is made by the Supreme Lord, there is no error. So the sun, which is rotating in its axis, is on the order of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna says everything, Maya, when we will come into the 9th chapter, Krishna says that whatever you see in this nature, is the arrangement, it is perfect. Why it is perfect? Because it is made by all perfect, the Supreme Personality of God. He says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Se Charachara. That this material nature, this cosmic manifestation is under my direction. When Krishna is the director, then cannot be any accident. We are safe. So the sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god at present is the name of Vivaswan. So there are names also because they are person. The sun is a person who is the king. Vivaswan is the king of that planet. He is a person. He is not just an object. He rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. If the sun does not come out, what happens? The day does not begin. The human race is dependent on the energy of the sun to transmit both light and heat. So where does the sun get this immense power? Can anyone calculate the energy which the sun emanates every minute? Impossible. Where is this energy coming from? Here, Brahmaji is equating the sun with the Yat Chakshur Eva Savita Sakala Grahana. It is the eye of the Lord. So that power is coming from the Supreme Lord himself. The Supreme Lord is the empowering sun. How has he empowered? Through this transcendental knowledge. By giving him this transcendental knowledge. He is rotating under the order of Krishna. And Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. This is very interesting. So Krishna chose the most authoritative person on this creation to become the recipient of Bhagavad Gita. Because as Krishna is saying, here it is Avyayam. This Jnana is Avyayam. It's imperishable, it's inexhaustible. And the heat and the light which the sun radiates is also inexhaustible. Is it so that from the sun, if you take solar energy, the sun will lose its power? Is it so? No. The power of the sun remains intact. It is inexhaustible. And the light also. The light that the sun radiates or emits, can it be minimized? Never. Never. It is inexhaustible. So once, one of our very senior devotee was explaining why Krishna chose only sun and not anyone else. Because of this reason, that the energy and the light which sun radiates is inexhaustible. And since when it has been there? Since what time the sun has been radiating? Does the scientist know? Is there a history? Is there a date of beginning? So what it is? It is Avyayam. It is since the beginning of the creation. Since the human race existed, sun has existed. And since the sun has existed, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, this science of relationship of one's relation with the Supreme Lord has always been there. The Gita is not therefore a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. So Bhagavad Gita's knowledge is also since time immemorial. Since the very beginning of this human form of life. In the Mahabharata Shanti Parv, we can trace out the history of Gita as follows. Treta yugado cha tato vivasman manave dado manuscha loke bhibrati artham sutta ikshvakave dado ikshvakuna cha kathito vyapi lokan avastitha. In the beginning of the millennium, known as Treta Yuga, this science of relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu, not by Krishna to Vivaswan. This is in the beginning of Treta, it was delivered from Vivaswan to Manu. And in Treta Yuga, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in which Vansha? Surya Vansha. Surya Vansha. So it is coming down from Vivaswan, the sun god, to Manu, and Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Ikshvaku. And in the dynasty of Ikshvaku, Lord Ramchandra appears. The king of the earth planet and the forefather of Raghu dynasty in which Lord Ramchandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaj Ikshvaku. So, this knowledge that we are receiving, this yogam, this relationship that we are receiving, is nothing which is new or experimental. It is since the beginning of the human race. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapar Yuga, 800,000 years. You know, Kali Yuga is 432,000. Very difficult to ascertain by our human brain. Human brain fails. The lifespan of Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. Maximum of human life is for how many years? 100 years. So how many lifespans, even if one is born in human? Hundreds and thousands. And this is the shortest span of the 4 yugas is Kali Yuga. The other yugas were just double. The previous yuga was Dwapar Yuga. What is the duration of Dwapar Yuga? Just double. 8,64,000 years. So if you add 4,32,000 to 4,32,000, it becomes 8,64,000. And the year before, the era before, the yuga before is Treta. So you add another 4,32,000. So how it becomes? 12,96,000. And if you add another 4,32,000, so it becomes how much? 17 lakhs something, you know. So that, and if you add all of them, if you add all of them, the Satta Yuga period, the Treta Yuga period, the Dwapar and the Kali Yuga, it comes to 43,20,000 years. You are calculating, Nikki? No? Achha. So Prabhupada is giving the calculation here. Don't be disappointed if you do not get the numbers, because it is beyond the capacity of human intelligence. So before there was Dwapar Yuga, the Prabhupada is giving in round figures. He did not mention 8,64,000. He is taking the round figure, 800,000 years. And before there was Treta Yuga, 1,200,000 years. And thus some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke. Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and Maharaj Ikshvaku. So at least for how many millions of years? 2 millions. 2 million is the time span when Manu spoke to Ikshvaku. And before that, it was spoken to Manu by Vivaswan. And before that, it was spoken to Vivaswan by Krishna. So Prabhupada is giving all this calculation. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 300,000 years, of which 120,400 years have passed. You know how the calculation is? You know this cycle, this Vedic clock? Very simple. You will always remember. You see our watch, our clock, what we have? We have in a day 12 hours, isn't it? But there are 14 hours in the clock of Brahmaji. Not 12, but 14. Why 14? Because in the lifespan of Brahma, there are 14 Manus. So instead of 12, there are 14 hours. So when 14 hours are complete, one day of Brahma is complete. And so is the duration of his night. Like we have 12 hours. And 12 hours also, as we said, AM and PM. PM means night. AM means the daytime. So equal. And in each Manu's span, like in each hour, what we have how many minutes? 60 minutes. But in each span of Manu, there are 71 cycles of Chatur Yuga, or it is called one Divya Yuga. समझ में आ रहा है? सुनिए, just try to hear. So there are 71. We have 60 minutes, but instead of 60, there are 71 cycles. 71 cycles of Divya Yuga. Each Divya Yuga consists of 43 lakhs 20,000 years. It comprises of Satyug, it consists of Treta, Dwapar and Kali. So 43 lakhs 20,000 years into 71 into 14. That is the lifespan of Brahma. It will be into many, many billions of years. So that is what is being calculated. And so you know now, so Kali Yuga is how much? 4,32,000. And how much we have passed so far? 5,000 plus. So that is the history. So Prabhupada is giving further. Accepting that the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciples, sun god Vivaswan. A rough estimate is that Gita was spoken at least 120,400,000 years ago. And in human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. What is the 2 million years benchmark? What is this 2 million year? Is it the year of Krishna speaking to Vivaswan? Manu speaking to Ikshvaku. Since that, we have history. We have Lord Ram appearing in Ikshvaku dynasty. So this knowledge was spoken at least 2 million years ago. That is the traceable history. Before that, it is difficult to trace. It was spoken by Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita. According to the Gita itself and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Shri Krishna, it was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan because he is also a Kshatriya. So why this knowledge is given to the Kshatriya? 2 reasons. One, that they are the authoritative rulers. They are the monarchs. They are the kings. And as the king, as a Kshatriya, what is their duty? Is to protect the citizens. Shata iti trayate sho Kshatriya. One who protects the citizens from downfall and dangers. What is the greatest downfall and danger? Is lust. So it was given to sun god who is Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas being spoken by the Supreme Personality of God. So Bhagavad Gita is very unique. You know, there are various Vedic literatures. It is called the Shruti and the Smriti. You know what is Shruti? The Vedas are called the Shrutis. Shruti means it is spoken. And in the third chapter, we studied where are the Vedas emanating from? What is the source of Veda? Huh? You know, how it is emanating? Very interesting. It was mentioned in the third chapter when we were studying this section of lust. Prabhupada is mentioning there. You have to be a little more attentive while studying. Through the breathing. Through the breathing. It was mentioned, huh? It was mentioned in one of the purports. Who remembers this purport? You should note it. Anyway. So the Vedas these are called Shruti Pramans. And then to explain the Vedas, there are Puranas. There are 4 Vedas. Principally there were 3 Vedas. Rig, Sam and Yajur. And Srila Vyasadeva, before the advent of Kali Yuga, because in Kali Yuga, people do not have the memory. People do not have the intelligence. Prayana alpayu sabhya kalovasmin yuge jana. Manda samanda mateo, manda bhagya hi upadruta. That, what is the characteristic of people in Kali Yuga? That they are short-lived. The age span in the previous era was much more. It was 10 times more. In Dwapar, age span was 1,000 years. In Treta, it was 10,000 years. And in Satyuga, it was 100,000 years. That is why these rishis and munis, they could perform tapasyas for 10,000 years, 20,000 years. Why? Because the lifespan was so long. But in this age of Kali, the lifespan is very short. And add to that, we do not have the memory. Manda somanda matiyo. Their intelligence is very less. Manda. They are lazy also. And manda bhagya hi upadita. They are unlucky. And also they are always disturbed. So they do not have the memory. So Vyasadeva, what he did, he classified the Vedas into 4 and he scripted them. He wrote them. But to explain the Vedas, but Vedas are, it is a very, very high level of education. It requires very Brahmanical qualification. Not common man can understand Vedas. How many of you have read Veda? Anyone studied Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved, or Arthava Ved? No one. We even don't dare to do it. Because we know it is beyond our reach, it is beyond our capacity. So to be able to understand the Vedas, Vyasadeva gave what? Puranas and Itihasas. So it is called Smriti. This is Smriti Shastra. And Pancham Veda is called Mahabharata. Krishna Dwaipan Vyas gave Mahabharata. And in that Mahabharata, there is this Bhishma Parva. And in that Bhishma Parva, Vyasadeva has given Bhagavad Gita. So technically speaking, what is Bhagavad Gita? It is a Smriti Shastra. It is Purana. It is the Amal Puran. But it is also Shruti in Smriti. How it is Shruti? Because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is both. It is Shruti also and Smriti also. So here Prabhupada is saying that because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas. Why? Because being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarvo Upnishado Gavo Dugdha Gopalanandana. That verse is there in Gita Mahatma. It is emanating directly from the lotus mouth of the Supreme Personality of God. So it is Shruti, but where it is appearing? It is appearing in the Itihasa, which is the form of Mahabharata, which is Pancham Veda. So it is as good as the Vedas. Rather, it is the essence of all the Vedas. It is the sar of all the Vedas. It was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan. Okay. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is aparusheya. This is another distinguished feature of Bhagavad Gita. We should know what we are studying. What is the value and worth of this knowledge? This is the same knowledge which was received to the sun planet. If someone comes and tell you, this is the same mobile which was purchased by the President of United States. He is using the same mobile. How will you feel? Suddenly you will feel that your mobile is something very important. It is precious, isn't it? Huh? So here it is being said that this knowledge is aparusheya. Parusheya, you understand, is human. And aparusheya means it is beyond the human capacity. So normal human intelligence cannot grasp. That is why, how? Very simple. Can anyone understand the existence of soul? Do we understand the existence of soul? We have no experience. We have no realization. Do we have any? Nothing. Zero. Why? Because it is aparusheya. It is aparusheya. So this knowledge which is being given, it is aparusheya. So we will discuss in the second verse. So they are very important. So how to receive this which is beyond the capacity of human intelligence and intellect? Prabhupada says it is superhuman. Another good way of saying it is superhuman. Beyond the capacity of the humans. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, is very important. So because it is beyond the capacity of the human, we should not comment on it or we should not interpret on it. You are holding all the three Gitas. You'll get more benefit if you open and see what is written inside. Why don't you help him? You give your book to him and open at least that page for him. He's come for the first time. Anyone, you can open here. Yeah. So this knowledge, so please try to understand, it's very important. This knowledge is beyond the capacity of human race or human intelligence. So how it can be received? It has to be received as it is without interpretation. So if we try to interpret, then what we will do? We will fail. We cannot accept. The Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. Mundane means without the human element interpreting it. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. So there are so many commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. There are thousands of commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. But as we saw in the preface, what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that not even one is authorized or authoritative. Why? Because what they have done, they have interpreted, rather misinterpreted it. No one can comment on Bhagavad Gita unless and until he is superhuman. So then one may question how Prabhupada has commented and why his commentary is the most popular commentary in the entire universe. Prabhupada always mentioned, he had a disclaimer. He never claimed that this is his commentary. This is not his commentary. He always said, it is not that I have given this commentary. This commentary is given personally to be by Lord Sri Krishna. So each and every word of Prabhupada's purport is as important as the verse. It is even more important than the verse. Because in all other commentaries, you will find the verse as it is. You take up any Bhagavad Gita commentary, any version of Bhagavad Gita, any language, any edition, whoever is the author. The verses are exactly, you know the word verbatim? Verbatim means exactly facsimile same. Exactly the same. But that is not Bhagavad Gita. Where is the Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is in the interpretation. And most of the Bhagavad Gita, not most, all of the Bhagavad Gita are misinterpreted. So that is what Prabhupada is warning us. That the mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. And what is the proof that they are not Bhagavad Gita as it is? Because after their Bhagavad Gita edition, have people transformed? Have people changed? Nothing has happened. But this edition of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada presented, it has transformed the world. Even in those areas, even in those countries, even in those cultures where they knew nothing about Krishna, they have become Krishna's devotee. Just by reading this one book alone. There are millions and millions of cases. Somehow they got Bhagavad Gita and they read Prabhupada's purport and they were very convinced. They were so convinced that they changed their life forever. So this is what Bhagavad Gita is. Bhagavad Gita means, that is what Krishna Prabhupada is speaking, to present the will of Krishna. To present the will of Krishna. Prabhupada says our business is to present the will of Krishna. What is the will of Krishna? Krishna's heart. Gita, Bhagavad Gita. When does one recite or compose a song? From where the song is composed? From the heart. Who knows the heart of Krishna? One who is in the heart of Krishna. Krishna is in everyone's heart. Krishna says, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hide Desha Arjuna Tashtati. And when we will come into the 9th chapter, he says that although I exist everywhere, but I am not in them. But who can know Bhagavad Gita? Who resides in the heart of Krishna. So those exalted devotees who have pleased Krishna to so much extent that Krishna always remembers them. So they are in the heart of Krishna. So they only can tell us what is the purport of Bhagavad Gita. Next time when I come, I'll give you some more Prabhupada's quotes. Can we have a projector? Next time I'm not coming. I'll give an online class. I have a very important meeting in the temple. So anyway, but I'll be with you. We will continue. This jnanam is avyayam. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be lost. And we can use the technology. So please try to understand this. Do not try to understand Bhagavad Gita from any source and every source, because it is not Bhagavad Gita. Are you getting this point? By the time you will realize, human life will be over. This is what Prabhupada is explaining. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession, from parampara. And it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the Sun God. And what is the disciplic succession? Krishna is himself giving this evidence. That first he gave it to Vivaswan, and Vivaswan gave it to Manu, and Manu gave it to his son, Ikshvaku. And so, this was passed on. This is the parampara system. So second verse, Krishna speaks and stresses on this. Evam parampara praptam imam raja rishyo vido sakalin mahata yogo nashta parantapa. So Krishna is revealing this knowledge, how it is passing through parampara praptam. Praptam means to receive. It can only be received in the disciplic succession. And who are the recipient? Raja Rishyo. Not a beggar. Or not a Brahmana. Being a Brahmana or being a beggar is not the qualification. What is the qualification? To be a Rishi. Who is a Rishi? One who has controlled his mind and senses. Rishi. And what kind of Rishi? Not ordinary Rishi. Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi means he has the administrative power. But he is also detached. Rishi also means he is renunciate. Isn't it? Where do the Rishis reside? They reside in their hermitage. So this knowledge is being received only in disciplic succession. And who are the recipients? Raja Rishiya. Vidhu means to know. The Prabhupada says understood. So this knowledge was passed on or received through the disciplic succession, and the recipients were Rajarishis. Those who were Rajas also, they had both. They were Rajas, but at the same time they were Rishis. That means they had the power, but they were completely detached. They were renounced. Sa kalena mahata yogo nashta parantapa. But kala, through the influence of time, what the time does in this material world, anything which comes into existence, what is the influence of time? It destroys it. Isn't it? Anything and everything which is being created, it is just a matter of time when it will be destroyed. It will be over. So Krishna is saying, Sa kalena mahata yogo nashta parantapa. The yoga, the science of relationship, what happened? It was nashta. Nashta in a sense that it was not continued. It was scattered. It was covered. It was lost for some time. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession. And the saintly kings, Prabhupada is mentioning Rajarishi as saintly kings, understood it in that way. But in the course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. It is not lost. It appears to be lost. Sa kalena mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Like the Atma. Do we see the Atma? Do we experience the Atma? So it seems to be, we are lost. But we are not able to see it. We are not able to realize, is it lost? No, it exists. It exists. It is clearly stated that the Gita was specially meant for the saintly kings, because they were to execute the purpose in ruling over the citizens. What is the purpose of ruling over the citizens? What is the purpose of ruling over the citizens? By the kings and the monarchs. That is why monarchy is million times better than democracy. Why? Prabhupada always called democracy as, by which word? Prabhupada paraphrased democracy. You don't study, people don't study at all, I think. Neither do you listen Prabhupada's tapes. Anyone online? What Prabhupada compared democracy with? Demon crazy. Demon and crazy. Why? Because previously monarchs were who? They were saintly kings. If they were not saintly kings, the Brahmanas were so prominent that they could kill the monarch. There are instances. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there is an instance of Venam. Before Prithu Maharaj was coronated, before him there was Ven, who was the king of the universe. And he was very cruel, he was sinful. So the Brahmanas, by the power of the mantras, they killed him. And from the body of Ven, they churned the body and they created a very saintly king in the form of Prithu. So, and it is the duty of the king to protect the citizens from the bondage of lust. So no one can become an administrator, a king, a ruler, or a leader unless and until he has the capacity to release his subjects, his citizens from the bondage of lust. Can you ask Mr. Modi? Can you release me, Mr. Modi, from the bondage of lust? What is the name of President of US? Biden? What is his name? Joe Biden. Can he do that? Is he himself released? That he can release anyone else? So what kind of leaders are these? They're not leaders. Okay, Modi is much better as compared to the others. But this is the prime responsibility of being a leader. is the prime responsibility of taking the position of a spiritual master. What is the responsibility of the spiritual master? To deliver the disciple from the bondage of lust, from material existence. Is any guru, any teacher going to take that responsibility? Nilesh? That is what Srimad Bhagavatam says. Guru na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat. Now samupete mrityu. Now mochet samupete mrityu. One should not take a position of a guru. Guru na sasyat, pita na sasyat, of a father, because father is what? He is the natural leader of the family. Janani na sasyat. One should not become a mother unless and until he is capable of na samupet mrityu. One is able to deliver his dependent from the cycle of birth. So that is the responsibility of taking leadership. But leader means who is trained in the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Then he can. Then there is no problem. Because he established that yogam. And what is that yoga? Science of relationship with the Supreme Lord. How is the science established? Through the parampara system. So if we don't come in parampara, we are in viyogam. There is no yoga. Viyogam. Prabhupada gives an example. Like you are having this electricity here, the AC is running, the light is, giving light, the fan is working. How? Is the fan on its own able to give air to you? The current is flowing in it. And where is the current flowing from? It is connected to the wire. And wire is connected to the main switch. And main switch is connected to the main supply. And the main supply is connected to the transformers. If there is no transformer, you may put whatever best fan or whatever best AC. Is there of any use? So Krishna is telling here again that how this knowledge can be received? Evam parampara praptam. Only by disciplic succession. Not otherwise. So those who are in disciplic succession, they only stand a chance to receive this knowledge. How? That is why Krishna first gave the disciplic succession. How it was passed? It was first spoken by me to Vivaswan, and Vivaswan gave it to his son Manu. Manu gave it to his son Ikshvaka. So Arjuna, I am now establishing the parampara, and I am appointing you as the first recipient, as the authority. So that is what Prabhupada has mentioned so many times in the introduction. Who can receive Bhagavad Gita? One who follows in the footsteps of Arjuna. Unless and until we are in the footsteps of Arjuna, we cannot receive this knowledge. So it is to be received in this process of parampara, disciplic succession. And he says that kalena mahata, that in due course of time, what was lost? The parampara was lost. Why? Because there was no follower. Because there was no follower, the disciplic succession did not continue. Yoga nashta. What was nashta? Not the Gyan was nashta. What was nashta? Yoga. What is yoga? Relationship was lost. Because the relationship was lost, this knowledge was not passed on. So Krishna waited. When this was lost, many millions of years back, Krishna is himself speaking. Yoga nashta parantapa. And now Krishna is going to speak the same knowledge to Arjuna. So how much was the gap? How much is the gap? Millions and millions of years. But because there was no one qualified, no one was, that is what Krishna will speak in the next verse. So please see what is the progression, how to receive this knowledge and who can receive this knowledge. Not anyone and everyone. One has to be in the parampara system. One has to be in the yoga. Unless and until he is in the yoga, he cannot receive this knowledge, even if he is in parampara. Actually, parampara means yoga. Parampara actually means yoga. So Prabhupada is saying that certainly Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demoniac persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretation according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose a need to re-establish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken. And therefore, he declared that the purpose of Bhagavad Gita appeared to be lost. So one lecture in London, Srila Prabhupada is asking that how Bhagavad Gita was lost. When Arjuna was present, Krishna is saying the purpose of Bhagavad Gita was lost. Sa kalena mahata yoga nashta parantama. Were there no Brahmins? Were there no sages? There were so many Brahmanas. Dronacharya was he not a Brahmana? Kripacharya, was he not a Brahmana? There were so many others. Were there any scarcity of sages? There were so many sages. Vyasadeva himself was there. Asit, Devalo, Vyasa, Narad, everyone was there. But none of them Krishna considered fit to give the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So that is a very special position of Arjuna. Actually, we see in Bhagavad Gita, it focuses on the qualities of both Krishna and Arjuna. And what is the depth of their relationship? Not only Arjuna chose Krishna so that he could win the war, but Krishna also chose Arjuna so that he can deliver the human race for time immemorial. Because that was the depth of relationship between the two personalities. So Prabhupada is saying here, 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken. So please see, knowledge was not lost. But knowledge could not be received because the disciplic succession was broken. Yoga nashta. Krishna is not saying jnana nashta. Yoga nashta. And therefore he declared the purpose of Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, the present moment, there is also so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, especially in English. But almost all of them are not according to the authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Shri Krishna. This spirit is demoniac. Because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Example is Ravana. Who is Mother Sita? She is the property of the Lord. She is Lakshmi. Everyone is praying to Lakshmi Devi, isn't it? That please come to my house. Not come to my house, please come to my tijori. Why? If Narayan is there, Lakshmi is already present. But people inviting Narayan? No, they want Lakshmi. What mentality is this? Ravan mentality, demon mentality. That is why Lakshmi is Chanchala. Chanchala. You heard, no? Lakshmi is Chanchala. Why she is Chanchala? Because wherever Narayan is not there, she will never stay. But Lakshmi is not Chanchala. If Narayan is there, she is Achala. Have you seen? You have come to our temple. She is fixed at the service of the lotus feet of Lord Narayan. So my dear friend, if you have Narayan, Lakshmi is already there. And if you don't have Narayan, whatever Lakshmi you may have, she will leave you. Everyone in this world is chasing Lakshmi Devi. And they're not thinking about Narayan. So Prabhupada is saying, all the Bhagavad Gita edition, they are all useless. These are not just useless, they are all demonic. Because they are making good business. This spirit is demonic because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, it is received by the Parampara disciplic succession. An attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. So how this Bhagavad Gita was published is also a very spectacular miracle. You want to hear how this Bhagavad Gita was published? Don't want to hear it. Laid back. Kuch nahi. No reaction. No response. It was Krishna's intervention. Prabhupada first wrote his script of Bhagavad Gita when he was in Grastha Ashram in his mid-40s. But that script did not get published. It was a big script. It was even bigger than this. This is 700 pages. Prabhupada's first original Bhagavad Gita commentary was 1200 pages. But when someone in the South India agreed to print it, when Prabhupada came to take it and give it to him, he came to know that his wife, she had sold it. Because how many pages were there? 1200. So she got some money, and from that money she bought some biscuits. Prabhupada was very disappointed, but he was not dejected. So when he started to preach, Prabhupada had to preach Bhagavad Gita. And there was no even one authentic Bhagavad Gita. So what happened? Once an English lady, the American lady, she inquired from Prabhupada, who came to hear Prabhupada, that Swamiji, please give me a recommendation, which edition of Bhagavad Gita should I take? And when she asked this question, it stirred Prabhupada so much. Prabhupada said, how can I recommend any edition? Because all the editions are, none of them are authorized edition. None of them are in disciplined translation. So Prabhupada himself again wrote Bhagavad Gita, his commentary, in 1965 and 66. But Prabhupada tried, nobody published it. Why? Because it was so much in detail. So then once, one Prabhupada's disciple, at that time, Brahmanand Prabhu Bruce. So what they did, Prabhupada made a recording of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And previously, any one of you, I don't know, in your generation you have seen, there used to be LP record. Dinesh ji ne dekha hoga. When in my childhood, I also used to play LP record. His master voice, HMV. So the first LP record of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra was made. And an ad was given in the local newspaper. And one person who was working in Macmillan. Macmillan was one of the biggest name of publishing in America at that time. Still, it's a very big Macmillan. So one person from Macmillan Publishing saw that ad. Don't worry. You are able to hear? Yeah. Online also you are hearing. Okay. That is good. We can use the mobile phone. My mobile phone is with you. You can switch on your lights, switch on your torches. Here it comes. Some light is coming. So one response came from the Macmillan Publishing person. So what he did, he gave his official address. Like Dinesh, if you want to subscribe to something, you are staying in IARI. So what you will give? You will give your address as IARI. So that disciple of Prabhupada, he became very ecstatic. He showed to Prabhupada that there is one reply from Macmillan Publishing. So Prabhupada said that don't send him the record by post. You go personally and you dress yourself as a English gentleman, as an American gentleman. And go and give him this copy of the script of Bhagavad Gita. Supposingly, I come here and I tell you that you go and meet your dean and give him my notes. And what I am expecting, that tomorrow in IRI convocation, he will read that notes. His speech will be that notes. Will you accept it? Will you take it? He will not do that. Why he will do that? But that is the difference. The disciple had faith in the words of Guru. That is disciplic succession. That is a parampara. So he did exactly what his spiritual master told, Brahmanand Prabhu. And when he went and met that person, he came to know that that person was a clerk. So he said, I have brought this script of Bhagavad Gita and we want to publish it. But what can a clerk do? What power or position he has? At the same time, when Brahmanand Prabhu was speaking with his clerk, the editor of Macmillan came to the clerk. There was some official work. Many times happens that the boss comes to the subordinate also to speak something. And he said, what is this book? And Brahmanand Prabhu said, this is Bhagavad Gita as it is. And he said, really? Is it Bhagavad Gita? We were waiting for it. Give it to me. He took it and printed it. This is miracle. So this is what Prabhupada is saying. So this is Bhagavad Gita. It is given by Krishna and it is made intervened. So we can see, if we come in Parampara, you can see in our life there will be so many instances, which is beyond our capacity. It is Aparusham. And so the first edition was published. But Prabhupada was not happy with that edition of Bhagavad Gita. Because what the Macmillan people did, they cut it in size. They reduced the purports. No shloka was reduced. Some of the devotees have Macmillan edition also of Bhagavad Gita. All the 700 verses are there. But what was reduced? Purport. So you see the preface, Prabhupada says that now I am satisfied. Originally, I wrote Bhagavad Gita as it is in the form in which it is presented now. Why now? Because previously what was presented as Bhagavad Gita as it is was not Bhagavad Gita as it is. When the book was first published, the original manuscript was unfortunately cut short to less than 400 pages. This is 700 pages. It was cut short to 400. So what was cut? Purports was cut. So what is Bhagavad Gita? It is the purport. The purport. So if you do not dive and do not, receive the message which Prabhupada is giving, then you do not enter into the mystery of Bhagavad Gita. Then Prabhupada is saying, therefore I had to minimize my original manuscript, but later on when the demand for Bhagavad Gita as it is considered, so Prabhupada did not compromise. He set up his own publishing house. He set up BBT. Why? Because he wanted to give us this purports. So what is coming here is in Parampara. Very important. And we should not read any other. I have read some other editions also of Bhagavad Gita. But since I have started to read Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, now I cannot read any other edition. Because what Prabhupada has given, no one can come anywhere close. There is no point in wasting our time. If we have time, and if we have interest, then we should study only from Srila Prabhupada as it is Bhagavad. So Prabhupada is saying here, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great one, Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is. So Bhagavad Gita has to be presented as it is, and it has to be accepted as it is. It's a great boon to humanity, but if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculation, it is simply a waste of time. Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat. I'll stop here. Just more than 10 minutes past 9. Very interesting. Eternal enemy is lust, and how it can be conquered when one is in eternal relationship. And when one is in eternal relationship, he can receive this eternal education. So if the lust is there, that is why no one can be free from lust. There is no one in this human race who can cure lust. One has to only take shelter of the disciplic succession, parampara. Then this knowledge can be received, and through this knowledge one can conquer lust. Hare Krishna. If you have any question, any doubt, any discussion, you can ask. Yeah, read. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
But is we can say things like
Yeah, this group parampara, yes.
and in starting before starting of the first
Yeah. So see, many times the parampara was lost, no? Many times he established. Whenever in Kali Yuga, the parampara is lost again and again. Why? Because people misinterpret. They add their own interpretation. And as soon as they will put their own interpretation, this we will discuss more next time. That how parampara continues and how parampara is lost. What is the general understanding of parampara? Is to follow as it is. As soon as we do something new or we try to change, what happens? Parampara is lost. Why has Krishna given this knowledge? Very important, to free us from the bondage of lust. Is anyone knowing? You ask any scholar of Bhagavad Gita, what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? What he will speak? Does he have any cognizance? What is the purpose Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita? Is to liberate from the bondage of lust. Does he have this understanding? He does not have even an iota of understanding. Why? Because he is not in disciplic succession. And how can we know? Because we are somehow, we are subscribing, we are applying our life according to Srila Prabhupada's purports, to his teachings. When we will come in the 10th chapter, Krishna will say this knowledge is even not known to the demigods and the greatest of sages. What to speak of ordinary men? Then how can we receive it? By coming in parampara. That is the privilege. That is the privilege. Krishna is giving that privilege. Krishna gave that privilege to Arjuna. Did he give that privilege to anyone else? No one else. So if we come in parampara, then we are in privileged position. But for that, some intelligence is required.
Can we get Guru Dronacharya as a Bhakti?
Guru Dronacharya was not Rajrishi. You have not studied properly. Open purport. 2.5. Quickly, read the purport. Read the purport. Why you are wasting time in reading the verse? 2.5 I said. See how difficult it is to hear. Very difficult to hear. 2nd chapter, 5th verse, purport. You need help? Give him the book. 2nd chapter, 5th verse, purport. Purport, purport,
According to scripture goes a detailed basis in abominable action and laws to the same of discrimination is still to be abandoned. Krishna and Rona were
obliged to take the side
of because of his financial assistance. Although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial consideration. Under the circumstances, they have once felt a step to the
take, got it? This is the point. This is a principle. This is a principle. The person who is in disciplic succession, he does not accept any favor from anyone who is not qualified. Very, very important principle. What happened? They are already lost their position. Again, we are interpreting by our own intelligence now. What is our intelligence? It is covered by lust. That is why it is difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita, because we don't accept the authority of Krishna. We put our chavanni, as one devotee says. We always put our filter. And we fail. But good, that is why you should ask, inquire. But when we are convinced, we should accept and follow. Then we can take the benefit. Then we can advance. Why Krishna spoke in length? Because he wanted to clear. And through Arjuna was clear. Arjuna had no doubt. That is why Arjuna selected Krishna. No? In our case, if that will be the case, will we select Krishna and leave all the entire world and women of the world and all the luxury? I really doubt. We will still go for that. So Arjuna had no confusion. But Krishna made Arjuna to come in this bewilderment position so he could clear our doubts and delusions. Okay, I'll stop here. It's getting late. We'll continue. It's very, very interesting. So now we know the history. This is eternal education. It is since time immemorial. And how it can be received? It can be received only when we are in yoga and eternal relationship. That is parampara system. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.